Peace and peace. The Lord bless you, everybody. There on Facebook. Hop in, hop on, and let somebody know that we're on. Um, Instagram. So, listen, the way these algorithms work, y'all got to hit the hearts and be tapping the hearts. That helps it to stay up on the feed, and then I think it kind of shares it with some of your people. Go ahead, and if you're watching on Facebook, hit the share button and hit the like button. Again, the way these algorithms work, the more you engage it, the more it stays up on the feed. And of course, we want to make sure as many people get into the word as possible. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell notification and hit the subscribe button so that you get notified there. All right. So everybody, all of the platforms have an assignment. All right. Instagram, hit the paper airplane, grace and peace, and send this to at least one person. All right. Send this to at least one person, and then hit the hearts. Facebook, hit the share button, and invite, tag 3 people in the comments, and YouTube, do what you do. We are still in our teaching series entitled Christ Perspectives, Lessons in Looking Like Christ. I'm sharing with you principles to aid you in shifting your outlook, your perspective on things, so that you can see things through the lens of Christ, and ultimately get the outcome, the experience of Christ, experience that fruitful, abundant life that Jesus promised us. And I'm convinced that if he promised it, it is a reality that is possible. And so there must be principles and keys that are necessary to actualizing that. If you miss yesterday's teaching, hey, all right, I see comments coming up now on Instagram. J Mo, grace and peace. All right, if you miss yesterday's teaching, I want to encourage you after we get off tonight to go back and to watch it. Go over to Facebook. It's not on Instagram, so you'll have to go over to Facebook to the Kingdom Church. If you go facebook.com/ the Kingdom CH, all right, facebook.com/ the Kingdom CH. If you type that in, it'll pull up the church's Facebook page, and then you can watch the teaching there. I promise you, shared some principles that are going to radically revolutionize the way you do relationship and ensure that um, you're stewarding your life in a way that puts you in the best position to maximize the life experience. Everybody type in the comments, I deserve abundant life. Type that in the comments. Type that in the comments. Everybody do that. I deserve abundant life. Type that there. And then, as a reminder to yourself and as a declaration, as a profession of faith, I want you to type in the comments, Jesus promised me abundant life. And you've got to stand fully in and upon the promises of God, that if God made us that promise, then you've got to place a demand. Jaquel, grace and peace to you. You got to place a demand on what he promised you. And you got to make sure then that you manage your life in a way that agrees with the promise of God. Instagram, y'all ain't typing. Come on, type that there in the comments. You got to make sure that you manage and steward your life in a way that agrees with the promises of God. Get your Bible, Amos chapter number 3. Amos chapter number 3. I want to again make sure that you know, those of you that follow us online and are a part of our virtual audience week after week, you can be a part of the Kingdom Church by way of media. Thank God that technology has closed the gap between the distance that geography may provide for us. And of course, as we have come through and are still in a pandemic, everything has gone virtual. So if you haven't already and you need to connect to the Kingdom Church. If you don't have a pastor, if you don't have a community of faith that you're actively a part of, I want to encourage you and invite you to be a part of this church community. If you want to do that, you're on Instagram. Of course, Instagram, y'all are always kind of the behind the scenes angle. Just shoot me a DM and I'll let you know how to do that. Those of you on Facebook, information is there in the caption as well as on YouTube. As we're teaching tonight, again, I need you to be hitting the hearts, hitting the thumbs up, tagging people, hitting the share button, and making sure that the word gets out. So we're teaching and talking about managing and measuring relationships. Again, I really want to encourage you to go back and watch what we taught on yesterday. Of course, on Monday nights, Kingdom Living. Our objective is to take the word of God, which can sometimes be difficult to actualize into your life. Sometimes can seem difficult to really understand what does that mean for me or how does that look in my life? What am I supposed to do with that on a day-to-day basis, the these and the thous and the thuses? And then again, looking at the life of Jesus, who we now have a post-resurrection revelation of, that Jesus was and is God. Looking at that and looking into that, it can be difficult to see how can you or I, as a mere human, really be able to live that kind of life. And so on Monday nights, Kingdom Living Masterclass, we're sharing principles with you to master kingdom living so that you experience the kingdom of God. When we talk about the kingdom, the word kingdom is two-part word, the king's dominion. We're talking about you experiencing the dominion of the king in your life and seeing that come to pass. And I said this on yesterday, and I want to begin here. Amos 3:3 says, "How can two walk together except they be agreed?" And I said this on yesterday, that relationship is the highway upon which the heart of God is revealed in the lives of human beings. God is a spirit, and no spirit can have any manifestation or expression independent, separate, and apart from a body. Any spirit that is operating in the um, terrestrial, this earth dimension, separate and apart from a body, is illegal. And so God is a spirit. And the only way then that God and the heart of God can be expressed into the lives of people is through people. He requires and makes use of relationship. And so I said on yesterday, and I want to reiterate this tonight because I think it's such an important principle for you to grasp. And it's such an important way for you to really look at your part, your role in relationships. Your role in relationships is to express the heart of God. And so the question that you've got to pose to yourself, any relationship you are in, whether it is a platonic relationship, whether it is a romantic relationship, your family and biological family relationships, ask yourself the question: am I deliberately showing up conscious of that assignment? I am a portal through which the heart of God is being revealed and shared um, to humanity, to human beings. Why is that important? Because it's possible. I've done it, especially as saved and born again people. Sometimes we can hyper spiritualize um, things that are really must be both discerned and then naturally demonstrated. And we can think that everything we need will come directly from God, directly to us. And while every good thing indeed comes from God, a spirit, must have a portal, a body, a human, through which he can express himself. Why is it important? Because there are times in relationships where there is a deficiency that is being experienced. And especially, again, church folks, we can, whether consciously or unconsciously, minimize the need of human beingness for relationship. That in Genesis chapter number 2, when God looks at Adam after creating every animal and creating a companion for every animal, he looks at Adam and says, "It's not good for man to be alone." Well, if God was all that Adam needed, and if Adam's relationship with God was all that was needed, then God would not have then looked into Adam's reality, his day-to-day life, day-to-day reality, and said it's not good that he's alone. Yeah, Adam is a spirit in a body, but as long as he's in that body, he needs the communion, the fellowship, the relationship, the interpersonal transactions that happens between another human being, as again the portal and the doorway through which the heart of God is revealed. And so it's important then that you're showing up in your various relationships with that sense of awareness that this other human being, whether they are grown or a child, whether they are spiritually mature or spiritually a babe, that this other human being needs to experience the heart of God as expressed through another human being. And I got to show up with that degree of commitment and that degree of awareness. I want everybody to do something for me right now, wherever you are. I want you to kind of sit up. I want you to sit up, and I want to challenge you to do something. I want to challenge you to become very body aware. I want you to press your feet into the ground as you're sitting up. Press them deliberately into the ground, and I want you to, just for a few moments, take an assessment of how you feel right now in this moment. Why? Because as we're talking about managing and measuring relationships, the first relationship that you really got to manage is your relationship with yourself and your body, and your relationship with what and how you're feeling. Sometimes we avoid this because we're afraid of coming face to face with whatever negative emotion or feeling we may be experiencing in that moment. And so press your feet into the floor, and it's okay. People of God, born again people, hear me. It is okay for you to acknowledge the reality if you don't feel fine, right? If especially we're in a time of the year where sometimes emotions are going through changes. You may be in a space in your personal life where emotions are going through changes, and emotions are up, and emotions are down. As you're in that space, it's okay to acknowledge, I don't feel fine. But of course, every reality for us as born again believers must be perceived, seen, and experienced through the lens of the Spirit. So for us, even if you don't feel fine, um, your reality, your awareness is, I am fine. I am fine, even if I don't feel fine. I don't feel fine, but I am fine. It's the duality of your realities. Your soul may not feel fine, but your spirit, which is who and what you are, sits in the reality of wholeness. And so the difficulty now becomes, my spirit is whole, but I experience the outside world not as a spirit. I experience the outside world as a soul. Jennifer, grace and peace. I experience the outside world not as a spirit. I experience it as a soul. Everybody type that in the comments. That's important for you to get that. I experience the outside world as a soul, not as a spirit. I experience it as a soul. And so no matter how whole my spirit is, if you are born again, your spirit is perfect. If you are born again, your spirit is entire. It is lacking nothing. It is fully furnished with the fullness of Christ, of his fullness. The scripture says we have have received. If you're born again, there is nothing but joy and peace and righteousness living in your spirit. But you experience the world not through the spirit. You experience the world through your soul. You contact the world through your body, but you experience the world through your soul. It's through the spirit that we are God aware. It is through the soul that we are self aware. And it is through the body that we are world aware. Of course, the only way, though, that what the body is experiencing can be languaged, what the body is experiencing can be interpreted, is through self awareness. And to the degree that I am self-aware, and whatever I am aware of myself of, which is why I want you to pause and assess, what am I feeling? How am I feeling? That's how I'm going to experience the outside world. My life experience will be filtered through my soul. And so if my soul is not well, if my soul is diseased, discomforted, disquieted, then that's how I'm going to experience everything in the outside world. If my soul is in turmoil, if my soul is going through the birthing pains of evolution, evolving into the best version of me or the next version of me that is necessary for my future that has now become a reality, if what I am experiencing in and as a soul is challenged, then that's how I'm going to experience the outside world, which is why this conversation about measuring and managing relationships is so important, because it is relationships that either bring life to the soul or death to the soul. Relationships bring either life to the soul or death to the soul. If you're just coming on Instagram, press that airplane button and invite somebody. If you're on Facebook, hit the share button and tap those hearts. Remember, I said yesterday that that relationships is the passageway that life and or death is communicated one to another. And so it's important then, if my soul health, determines, manages, and guides my world experience, and relationships either bring life to my soul or death to my soul, then I got to make sure that I've got healthy and proper relationships around me. All right. Just an introduction in our conversation. Let me know if you're there and if this is blessing you. On yesterday, we began by saying you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And so we began talking about measuring and defining relationships, measuring and defining relationships, the people that are in your life, where they're positioned in your life, ensuring that who they are, how they are showing up is safe for the space and the place that you have positioned them in your life. We said on yesterday that there are three primary things you need to consider in placing people in your life. Number one, we said placement by assignment, that there are some people that you are divinely assigned to. And not only there are people you divinely assigned to, but so you got to have a revelation that there are some people that are divinely assigned to your life. I've walked in covenant with the same man of God now for almost 20 years. Not because I didn't go through changes and there weren't times where there were strains and difficulties and disagreements and perspectives, but because I have a revelation of his assignment in my life. He's placed in a certain space that is unchangeable. Placement by assignment. Then number two, placement by benefit. We're talking about how to identify where people belong in your life, how to know what dimension or level of friendship or relationship or relational access they should have. So number two, placement by benefit. You got to assess what is the benefit that I'm getting from this relationship. Sometimes we're afraid to measure and assess relationships by that because we've been taught that that makes our motives impure. If you are measuring, is this providing any benefit? And because it's always got to be a twofold system of measuring. Not only am I receiving benefit, but am I providing a benefit? Am I being parasitic in the relationship where I'm getting, but I'm not giving, where I'm receiving, but I'm not deliberate in being as consistent of a giver in that relationship. And then number three, we talked about placement by experience. Based on how I've experienced this person, does my experience with them inform me, secure me in placing them in whatever level of friendship or relationship that I have placed them in? Of course, we are looking at all of these teachings through the life and lens of Jesus. Go over to Luke chapter number 6. This is a bit of recap from last night, and of course, we're moving into the rest of this teaching on tonight. Luke chapter number 6. Now, as you're going to Luke chapter number 6, let me give you a master key. Let me give you a master key to commit to your mind and to your understanding about relationships. If relationships are the highway, the passageway through which and upon which the heart of God is made revealed to a person or to a people or to a place, to a time, then God graces, hear this, he gives a divine grace for any relationship that you are assigned to have a primary role in. Any relationship, remember on last night, those of you on Instagram, you won't be able to see this, but those of you that are on Facebook, you see the image that's on the screen. Instagram, let me see if I can put it up on my phone for y'all to see here and to look at. We talked about those 4 levels of friends, those 4 circles of friends, and all right, here you go, Instagram. And in the center of that circle, you've got life friends. So when I talk about relationships that you have primary roles in, it's those first 2 inner circles. It's the life friends and the special friends. And we're going to talk tonight about how to identify who goes into each of those spaces. Any relationship that you are given or called to a primary role in, God gives you a grace for it. He gives you a grace for that person. He gives you a grace for that people. What is a grace? It's a divine strength, a divine capacity. Any person, relationship, space, he gives you. Consider some of you that are parents. Perhaps before you became mothers or fathers, you said, I don't really do kids like that. I can't handle. But when you had your own, God gave you a grace because you had a divine assignment in those children's lives. And he gives you a grace according to the assignment. Now, why is it important? Because grace is always intentionally given to accomplish God's purpose in the lives of those you are in. Remembering that relationship is one of God's primary contact points, one of God's primary entry points where his heart and his mind is expressed and revealed to people, relationships. And he gives grace intentionally to accomplish whatever his purpose in that relationship is. Why is that so important? Because when you get that revelation that any relationship that I have a special anomalistic, unusual capacity for, is a relationship that I have been given a supernatural grace for. Why must I get that? So that as I'm measuring the people that are around me to identify what space and place that they belong in. And as I begin to measure and I start finding that the critical mass, hear me, the critical mass, grace and peace, man of God, that the critical mass necessary to fit in this specific space. If you're going to be a life friend, if you're going to be in the core friendship circle, there's a critical mass that's necessary. You've got to at least carry or have this much capacity for me. You got to have at least this much loyalty and commitment for me. You've got to have at least this much concern. There's a critical mass that is necessary that you have to define. You have to be the one who defines what is the critical mass necessary for a person or people that I define as being life friends, for persons or people that I put into this space and into this circle in my life. And as I'm measuring that, here's how it's possible to have to replace. Remember, we talked last night about replacing, not necessarily displacing, but replacing, placing again. Perhaps you thought they were in this one space, but after measuring, you got to place them again. You got to shift their placement. As I begin to have to shift placements, I can do that without any offense or great negative affect internally. When I have the revelation that if they don't have the capacity for me, hear me, then they are not graced for me. And I don't take that personally. I can't be offended in it when I assess relationships and people in relationships through the lens of the grace of God, that is God's equipping, that is God's intentional enabling for me or for them to be able to fulfill his purpose in my life or in their life. Right? And so when I'm measuring and I'm assessing the relationships and I realize, okay, this person really does not have the capacity for this dimension of relationship that I have them in. I now have to do the difficult work of replacing. When I say replacing, I don't mean necessarily putting somebody else there. We're going to talk about that too. I mean placing again. I gotta shift where you were. You were in that inner circle. You were life friends or even special friend circle. But now I got to shift you into one of the outer circles because I've identified you don't have the capacity. And I'm not offended with you. I'm not mad at you. I may be sad because I may have had a desire for you to have that capacity because I wanted you in that space. I wanted you in this particular relational dynamic. That's what I wanted you. That's what my desire was for you. But now that I've measured, I got to manage it. And my measurement has revealed God didn't give you that grace for me. One, or number two, perhaps God gave them the grace, but they have not managed or developed that grace. And that's not about you. That's about their own dereliction to the relationships God has called them to. Either way, you don't take on the burden of either a person who just doesn't have the grace or a person who has not developed or cultivated the grace. Here's my outlook on any person or persons that are in my life. I don't care who they are. Blood, not blood, somebody I've known since I was a kid. If they don't have the capacity for me, either God didn't give it to them or they haven't cultivated it. Either way, they're incapable of being who or what I need. And I can't demean a person for their incapability. They're just incapable. I'm I'm disappointed, but I'm not offended because that's their stuff. Are you catching this? I'm disappointed because maybe I wanted them to be capable and I felt like I was capable, but put this in the comments. I cannot measure or determine somebody else's capacities by my own. You are not their measuring stick. You're your measuring stick. You and that's easy to do. It's easy to uh 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 Jen, check the drip, just FYI. It's easy to uh measure somebody else's weakness by your strength. Well, I'm understanding or I'm merciful or I don't hold stuff and grudges or and I X, Y, and Z. But you gotta see yourself not through the lens of yourself. You got to see yourself through the lens of Christ and the grace that He has bestowed upon you. Any strength that you have, any strength that you have is by the grace of God. See, when you begin to relate to yourself as not just some independently good person, but as a graced person, when you begin to relate to yourself not as just some person who is existentially good, but you know what? I'm a person under grace. And all of my strength. Brittany, grace and peace. Go over to 1 Timothy chapter number or 2 Timothy rather. Chapter number 4. Hit the share button if you haven't already. Matter of fact, 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Go there. If you're on Instagram, hit the little paper airplane in the corner and send this to one person, all right? Just one person, and invite him to come. And then tap the hearts or whatever you tap on here. Facebook, hit the share button and tap the thumbs. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. I think I'm teaching better than y'all are saying amen. Thank you, Sister Monique. See, the Spirit revealed I was getting ready to say that. And you typed that right as I was going to say it. 1 Corinthians chapter number 15. Verse number 10. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace, which was bestowed upon me, was not in vain. So I labored more abundantly. And that's how you got to relate to you. Anything that I am that provides life and strength to another person, I am by the grace of God. When I relate to myself in that way, and then I measure to the left and right, and I see that I'm not getting that same level of dependability, or I'm not getting that same level of presence, being just present. I'm not getting that same level of security or affection. I can be disappointed. But when I'm relating to myself as a graced one, I'm not offended because they just either don't have the grace or the grace was bestowed in vain. Are you catching this? So as we're talking about measuring and managing and measuring relationships, whenever I measure something, I'm defining it. And any relationship that is not defined is a threat to the balance of my life. Put that in the comments. Any relationship that is not defined is a threat to the balance, to the emotional balance of my life. Go to Proverbs chapter number 13. As you're coming in, as you're hopping on Facebook, be sure to tag 3 people in the comments, and then hit the share button. And then after you've done that, just let your finger be endowed with the baptism of the Holy Ghost, and just let it go to quickening on the heart button. All right. Tap to clap. Proverbs chapter number 13. Brother Redmond, grace and peace to you. Facebook, if you're saying something to me, my comments are moving slow, and some of them not showing up on the screen for some reason. So if I'm not seeing it, I promise. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now I'm seeing some of them. All right. Proverbs chapter number 13. And verse number 20. I'm going to give you some scriptural principles of placing people in your life. Because as you get ready to move into a new year, you can't afford another year. You don't need another year where improperly placed people in your life keep you or cause you to be stuck and unable to possess and stand fully in the reality of the strength and the power that God has endowed you with. You don't need another year where the people, the relationships around you prevent you from being able to fully actualize, to fully show up. The new buzzword of the last 3 years, manifest. To fully manifest as who and what God has called you to be. Proverbs 13 and verse number 20. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools or unenlightened ones will be destroyed. So as again, I'm measuring, how do I determine who goes into what or which one of these friend circles? Remember, we've got in the very inner circle, Instagram, there you go. We got the life friends. And then right outside of that is special friends. And then right outside of that is social friends. And then after that is colleagues and associates. As I'm determining who goes into what space, I've got to be assessing placement by assignment, placement by benefit, placement by experience. If the persons that I have allowed to take up the space of the life friends, which is the central, primary relational door through which the heart and life of God or the death of the enemy will be transacted into your life. If as I'm assessing, and the people who are taking up those seats are people who are not committed to growth and are not committed to progress and are not committed to development and are not committed to possessing the rest of who they are and are not committed to living in an awareness of God's purpose and God's assignment and what God desires for them, to allow them to continue to hold those seats, the scripture told us, will bring nothing more than destruction into our life. When the word uses this word fool here, it means an unenlightened one who has not awakened, has not opened the eyes of their understanding, is okay with where they are, and okay not in terms of being content, but complacent. Has just normalized it and accepted it. This is what it's going to be. This is who I'm going to be. I'm this, and I'm going to stay here. Well, you have now agreed to permit gateways and pathways and opportunities for destruction, emotional destruction in your life. Right? So I got to do the difficult work. And what's the difficult work? Measuring. I gotta measure. Tina, grace and peace. I gotta measure. And I've got to assess. All right, I told you to go over to Luke, right? Chapter number 6. Let's do that again and look at how Jesus placed the people in his life in these various circles. Jesus is our example. All right, he's our example. And as I'm measuring, here's the reality. Let me give some of you all. Let me give some of you all a charge and a challenge. Here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to accept that the more serious you become about you, because remember I told you yesterday, you do not belong to yourself. You are just your steward. You belong to God. And the more serious you become about stewarding God's person, God's body, then the greater the burden and the weight and the challenge to have to start moving people around is going to become in your life. Somebody may say, well, "What do you keep saying? I don't belong to myself, and what do you keep saying? That I belong to God." Paul, we talked about this. I think it might have been in the Jesus Life series that Paul's revelation. Look at Galatians chapter 2. Let me show this to you. And here's the weight of shifting relationships gets more manageable when, again, you take on the perspective of, if they don't have it for me, either number one, God didn't give it to them for me, or they have not developed or managed or stewarded or cultivated what God gave them. Either way, they're incapable of being what I need. I can be disappointed, but I'm not going to be offended, because they just don't have it. Galatians chapter 2. Verse number 20. Galatians 2 and 20. If you're just coming in, hit the share button. Your entrance fee tonight is one virtual guest. All right, everybody do it right now. Galatians chapter 2, as you're doing that. And verse number 20. I am crucified with Christ. See this? Nevertheless, I live. But it's not me. Not I, but Christ that liveth in me. My body, my beingness serves one purpose: to amplify his heart and to amplify his desire. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 15. We're talking about managing and measuring relationships. I'm going to give you some final keys on how to place people and how to identify who goes where in your life. And some of you all are going to have to break some of these soul ties that keep you from being able to place again, to replace, to put somebody in the friend circle that they are capable of being in, and number two, that is safe for who and what God has called you to be. And listen to me, there's a grace for that. He will, At the moment you commit in your heart to live your life as unto his desire for you, as a man, as a woman, as a wife, as a husband, as a mother, a father, as an employer, an employee, whatever the various social circles you're in. At the minute you say, all right, God, I'm committing myself to living my life as under that, he will give you the grace to shift that soul tie. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 15. And that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves. I don't belong to me. So I don't get to do whatever I want to do with my life. I don't get to let you loiter in a space in my life that prevents me from being able to move forward in my life, because my life don't belong to me. If it were up to me, hey, hang out. But it's not up to me. I'm in earth and I'm alive right now on purpose. Everybody type that in the comments. I'm alive right now on purpose. And so I got to live with an awareness of that purpose, and I got to be constantly assessing and measuring the relationships around me to make sure that they are in agreement with my purpose, give me an opportunity to demonstrate my purpose, or are strengthening me for my purpose. The only space that I have for people who don't have any relationship for my purpose in my life is in that outside, colleagues, associates, and beyond. All right, go to Luke chapter number 6. Finally, again, we're looking at how Jesus placed people in his life. So Jesus has all of these people who are around him. He's got all of these people who have an affection for him. Of course, most of the people who have this affection or have this affinity for him, it's because they either have hopes that he's getting ready to shift the oppression of a nation, that he's getting ready to ascend to the throne and it's going to change their day-to-day life. They are an oppressed people. It's because they are benefiting from him. But Jesus realizes, here it is. Jesus realizes that because I'm graced, watch this now, a person who lives aware of the grace on their life is a person who will provide some measure of benefit to every life they come in contact with. Anybody who knows me, anybody who has had an opportunity to engage or interact with me, the moment I sit into a space of conversation with you, I'm looking to identify if there's any wisdom, insight, or foresight that I have that can strengthen you and propel you into the fullness of who God has purposed and called you to be. I don't take up space in people's lives, but that's because I live aware of that grace. So Jesus is aware, hey, I'm going to benefit everybody who engages me, who comes into contact with me. Jesus realizes because I'm grace conscious, because I sit fully in the reality of who I am, of course the people around me are going to benefit from me. But all of them don't have the capacity to provide benefit to me. Now, what is the benefit Jesus is looking for? The benefit Jesus is looking for are those who can aid in carrying out his purpose, expanding his vision and assignment in the earth. Grace and peace, Rebecca Sampson. That's what he's assessing. That's what he's looking at. That's what he's looking for. So he's got the outside, right? He's got all of these people following him. But now he starts placing people as he's measuring people. If you didn't do it last night, you should do it tonight. You should draw that picture. Circle, another circle, 4 circles inside of circles. And the first thing he does, or the first group that he first carves out in Luke chapter number 6, verse number 12.
And it came to pass in those days, he went on the mountain to pray and continued all night and day in prayer. And when it was day, he called unto himself his disciples. See, you got to start making sure that you are prayerful. And I know this is something that is no longer popular for us who are peculiar people, to be prayerful about the people we allow in and out of our lives. Even again, remember we looked at this yesterday, and we're getting ready to look at this list of names here. He comes out of prayer and then he starts placing. Because I'm living purpose conscious. I'm living purpose aware. I'm living grace aware. If I'm living through the lens of what God's purpose for me in the earth, in my various social circles is, then it would behoove me to move through each of those decisions of measuring the relationships through a prayerful lens. Dr. Hargrove, grace and peace. He comes out of prayer, then he starts placing. Everybody type that in the comments. Pray, then place. Pray, then place. Pray, then place. Comes out of prayer, then he goes to placing. The first thing he does, he identifies 12. And as he identifies 12, first one is Simon, whom we call Peter, Andrew, Peter's brother, James and John, Philip and Bartholomew. Remember I said yesterday that there's a reason he not only pulls these 12, but then out of the 12 are his special friends. And what are special friends? Those are people who have the capacity to celebrate or to support special events in your life, big moments in your life. They don't have the grace to do life with you. I'm talking about the serious transitions of life. But they do have the grace to walk with you and to support you and to celebrate in special places. Right? Because out of those 12, then Jesus identifies 3. All right? Go over to Luke chapter number 8. And I'm going to show you how Jesus makes distinctions in his friends. And it's not that he's going to treat any of them as less of. He treats them according to their placement and their gracing. Right? You'll have people in your life who are friends, because again, we've identified 4 circles, 4 levels of friends. And it's not that they're any less of a friend, it's that they are a different friend who are in a different space or circle. And what I expect of my life friends, I don't expect of my special friends. And what I expect of my special friends, I don't expect of my social friends. Social friends are the people who you don't really depend on them for support. The only thing you look to social friends for is social engagement, small talking. How's the wife? How's the husband? How's the kids? What you working on? They're not going to hold you accountable. They're not trying to provoke you to destiny. And that's not their assignment in your life. And how much you should lean on a person depends on which of these circle of friends or levels of friends they have been placed in. All right, so let me move quickly. Luke chapter number 8. Life friends. We're going to see the difference between life friends and special friends here. Jesus has these 12 special friends, but then he's got the life ones, the ones who get to come into the most intricate, private, serious spaces in life. He can lean on them. He can depend on them. In Luke chapter number 8 and verse number 51, when he came into the house, so they've called Jesus. Jairus, his daughter, is sick unto death. She has died. This is a major demonstration that Jesus is getting ready to walk out. And when you get ready to show up in the arena of your life, where you're showing up as why you're here, why you're on earth, why you're alive in this moment, when you get ready to show up into whatever your arena is, you can't bring everybody into that point of manifestation with you, because everybody doesn't have the grace or the capacity or the faith. They don't have the confidence. Remember, we look in Luke chapter 6, and in the list of special friends, not one of Jesus's brothers are in it. None of his blood is in it. He's got brothers, but they're not in that, because at that place, at that time in his life, they did not have a revelation or a grace for who he was. Remember, John 7:5 said his brothers did not believe in him. And you should not have anybody sitting in the life circle, the inner part of your friendship circle, who does not believe in you. I don't care who it is. I don't care how long you've known them. I don't care if it's your blood brother, your blood sister, your auntie, your cousin, second cousin, twice removed. I don't care who it is. If they don't believe in you, they should not have a seat in the life circle. They may have a seat in the special friend circle. But John 7:5 says that Jesus's brothers did not believe in him. So they didn't get access. They didn't get brought into the special friend circle or the life friend circle. Now, later on, because here's what will oftentimes happen. Here's what will oftentimes happen in your life. People who are too familiar with you won't get awed by you until people who did not know you are awed by you. And once all the strangers are singing your praises, then, oh, I went to school with him. Oh, I knew her. All right, so look what happens. Verse 51, he's getting ready to show, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm alive. He's getting ready to step into the arena. And as he does, the Bible said he suffers, verse 51, he doesn't let anybody come in with him except Peter, James, and John. The 12 are there, but I love y'all. But I've measured, everybody can't go in here. So 9 of y'all, there's no shade. Y'all stay right here on the outside. You 3, come on in with me. Are you catching this? Remember, we looked at Luke 9:54. James and John, one of the reasons they were a part of his life circle was because they had his back. I'm approaching the hour mark, and I try to be true to an hour time. I may just have to continue this, saints. Luke 9:28, one last verse. I'm going to continue this later. Luke 9:28. And it came to pass after about 8 days after these sayings, he took Peter, John, and James and went up into a mountain to pray. And as he's praying, because here's the deal, watch what's going to happen. The fashion of his countenance was altered, and his raiment was white and glistening. And behold, there talked with him 2 men, which were Moses and Elias. Look at this. Jesus here encounters Moses and Isaiah. And Elijah. Moses and Elijah. Because life friends have got to have the level of dependency, and you got to have the level of confidence, rather, in life friends, security, that you can bring them into the company of your most important relationships, able to trust, number one, that they're not going to violate the access, they're not going to violate the vulnerability, they're not going to try to cut you out, bypass you, and they'll know how to just be there with you, understanding that it's not their moment. I'm talking better than you talking. K-Lissa Borden, God's going to get you for trying to scam his people. He's going to get you for trying to scam his people. You better cut it out before all of your resources dry up. All right, y'all. I got to end there. We're going to continue this teaching next week. Y'all go back and watch this again on Facebook. Hit the share button. Do it again. I know you did already, but do it one more time and share it one more time. Listen, if you were blessed tonight in the teaching, I want to challenge you to give. The information, Facebook and YouTube, is there on the screen. $ TKExperience on Cashapp. You can text the word give to the number 832-905-9433. 832-905-9433. Text the word give and follow the prompts that are there. There's a link there also. Instagram, respond in your giving if you are blessed. I'm praying for y'all. There's a grace available for you. And next year is going to be the best year of your life to date. So you got to get things in position and get ready to live the abundant life. I love y'all to life. Praying for you. This Sunday morning, I'll be in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you're there, meet me. And the week after that, I'll be in Chicago, Illinois. So meet me in one of these cities on the 31st. Listen, y'all need to meet me in Montgomery, Alabama on December 31st for a New Year's Eve service. All right.